And joining us right now in Ottawa, we have Aaron O'Toole. He is an MP for Durham, also a decorated former helicopter pilot in the Canadian Forces. Good of you to take the time to talk to us. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
If I could just start, Mr. O'Toole, with just what are the details? We're getting some cues from the government that, in fact, as we just mentioned with our previous guest, the government will be, at least maybe in part, footing the bill for veterans or family members of those who served in Afghanistan to attend this special Memorial Day. Can you confirm what kind of help or financial aid may be on the way?
I think the plans are still being finalized because, look, this is going to be a commemoration of a very important mission for Canada. Over 40,000 Canadians, men and women, spent time in Afghanistan. And the Prime Minister said clearly there has to be a national recognition here in Ottawa, but it's our sincere hope that there will also be simultaneous events across the country. Because I'll tell you, without the reserves, the Canadian Forces reserves and the units from coast to coast to coast, we wouldn't have been able to do that tremendous mission. So I think there will be something quite special here in Ottawa, but there's also hope of some provincial or regional events as well. So I think once that's finalized, we want to make sure that particularly servicemen and women, and particularly the families of the fallen, are part of remembrance and recognition ceremonies in the best way that works for them.
Right, but we mentioned you're a decorated helicopter pilot in the forces. Do you wish that the government just from the start said, you know what, we are going to foot the bill for travel for this commemoration?
Well, I think, there's some speculation on what type of form this will take. The government did recognize the successful mission in Libya. That was before I was an MP, but I saw that, and it was good to mark these achievements by the Canadian Forces, which are exceptional. In Afghanistan, the service was exceptional. So it's a little premature to sort of say exactly what families or reserve units or members of the Canadian Forces who are still in, not just veterans, so that they can take part. It's my sincere hope, and my community in Durham, we lost Trooper Darrell Caswell, and our community came together to show our respect when he passed. I certainly want the families to have a special role, and I think that's the intention of our government.
Can I also ask, there have been anecdotal stories, certainly, pertaining to the number of suicides among our Canadian forces being close to the actual number of combat deaths in relation to the Afghan mission. Is this true?
Listen, no, there's some reports that are simply not based on fact and evidence. The Canadian Forces, the men and women who serve our country, and for a brief time I was one of them, are a cross-section of Canadians from every province and territory. And most studies, including the Surgeon General study of the forces themselves, show mental health issues in relative sort of same levels as the general society. Now, after a mission like Afghanistan, there will be more acute people suffering from what I call operational stress injuries, and that in some cases is PTSD, but it can also be a range of mental health challenges that our soldiers will face. But some of the statistics or suggestions that it's a epidemic or something like that are simply not true. We have to make sure that anyone suffering knows there's supports for them. So Romeo Dallaire and Senator Dallaire and I are doing an event in May on mental health to tell the stories of some of our veterans who have sought treatment and are now really living fulfilled lives. And we've got to tell more stories of those people that step forward for treatment and can deal with some of their symptoms and lead productive lives. Because suicide is not the right option, and it's a tragedy whenever there's a single one.
Do we need to better keep track of, in cases where some of the anguish that members of the forces do suffer ultimately leads to suicide? Is the data kept well enough as it exists right now?
Yes, it is. And in fact, this is another subject not well understood. The Canadian Forces themselves, between about 30 and 60 days, has an assessment on any case like this. And they will look at it. They also rely on the coroner, the civilian coroner in communities to determine cause of death. And then there's longer term looks at a sort of board of inquiry level to see if was there something that could have been identified. Was this soldier reaching out in any way, and the system did not respond to some of the some of the identification signs for someone struggling. So I think it was great when General Lawson, the Chief of Defence Staff, sent a message to all Canadian Forces members, because it's our duty as veterans or serving members to look after our buddies. And you know, veterans themselves are doing it on Facebook with initiatives like Send Up the Count, making sure that they're keeping tabs on each other, which is really part of the military culture. So we are improving. The government is investing heavily in mental health. Any suicide is one too many, but we also need to tell, you know, any soldier or veteran out there suffering now, there are supports for you. Just make sure you reach out.
All right, we appreciate it. Aaron O'Toole, MP for Durham, also a decorated veteran, as we mentioned. Thanks for this.
Thank you.